everyone. Today I'm going to be making a bookshelf out of popsicle sticks. Well, I guess these are more like tongue depressors. And a plate shelf and a little picture. I also made a basket too. I'll show that at the end. But these are popsicle sticks I picked up at a craft store. No, actually, I think I got these at Dollar Tree, come to think of it. It's been a while. And I'm just cutting them with the miter shears. Some of them are a little tougher than others. I'm just eyeballing this. I'm not fond of measuring. I know I should. Measure twice, cut once. But anyway, I'm just eyeballing it, at least most of the time. And what I'm doing here is I'm just going to use the waste pieces as a measure for the actual shelves on the inside. And then I will use these little waste pieces to make some triangles that will actually hold the bookshelves up, the individual shelves. And I didn't end up using those coffee stir sticks. I thought I was going to use them, and I didn't end up doing that. I'm just sort of winging this. I don't have a plan, per se. I'm just eyeballing everything. I didn't draw this out ahead of time. That's sort of the way I work. I kind of fly by the seat of my pants, so to speak. And I'm just going to trim these up. And I'm not going to throw these away. I'll probably use them for something else. I tend to keep things just in case I can use them somewhere else. I did speed this film up a bit, so it's maybe twice as fast as normal. And I did make changes to this as I went along. I'll probably make some more of these bookshelves later on, maybe with a decorative topper on it. I tried to use a hole punch to make a decorative element at the top, but it just didn't work. So I will have to get a drill or something if I want to do this again and make a more decorative top instead of just having the craft stick rounded edge. I'm just deciding, what am I going to do here? I did do a little bit of measuring. I shouldn't have said I don't ever measure. I do occasionally. And this is for my kitchen. I've pretty much finished the living room set for my dollhouse. There's only 4 rooms in this dollhouse, and one is the living room, and then the kitchen will also include the dining area. Then there'll be 2 bedrooms upstairs. One will be a child's bedroom, and the other will be an adult bedroom. And I've finished the living room furniture. I have the wallpaper, and I know what flooring I'm going to use. And also for the kitchen, I have the flooring all planned out and the wallpaper designed and even printed. And at the end, I'll set up a room with the same wallpaper and the same floor I'm going to use in the actual dollhouse. But I'll just set up a little thing for you to look at, just so you can see where I'm going. I've already started the sink and also the oven, but that's for another video, and as well as the dining room table. I'm not sure how I'm going to make the dining room chairs yet, but they'll probably be based on the Strombecker kitchen sets, which are actually quite simple in construction. I'm trying to keep with the 1930s theme, and I'm just going to give this a little sand on the edges. And I'm going to make little triangles that will hold up the shelves, but you'll see that in just a moment. That's why I'm marking them. I'm actually had in mind a bookshelf that was in a larder, and a larder is a north-facing room. Could be in a basement, it could be in a cellar, it could be in an upstairs place near a kitchen or mudroom, usually north-facing and the coolest room. And my mother used to call it a larder. But we had a larder in a home that my husband and I lived in when we first got married. And there were bookshelves down in this larder that looked very much like this bookshelf that I'm going to make. It's not really a bookshelf, it was just a shelf basically, but it could be used as a bookshelf. And it had these little triangles that held up the shelves, very simple construction. And that's what I'm cutting right now. I'm just going to clip them off and whoop, and make a little triangle underneath each shelf, and that will hold it up. I'll glue it too, just to make sure it's stable. This wood is quite hard. I'm impressed. I've bought popsicle sticks and these sort of tongue depressor type craft sticks before that were so flimsy, but these are actually pretty tough. And that's good. It'll make it more sturdy. You see what I'm doing? Each shelf will have its own little triangular piece. And if I do it just right, then it'll all be even and won't have any slanting shelves. And I'll just do the ones for the other side. I'm not an expert at any of this. This for me is a learning process, and I'm really enjoying learning about making miniatures. It's quite satisfying. And as I go along with this and collect more and more miniatures, I'm really growing in my love for tiny things. I've always been interested in them, but as I've said before, I never had a dollhouse when I was growing up. I had dolls, of course, and lots of horses, toy horses to play with and that sort of thing. But I never had a dollhouse. And I probably said this before too. My bedroom was too small. But anyway, I have 3 dollhouses now. I bought another one this weekend at an antiques sale. And it was not meant to be a dollhouse. It's actually a rather large birdhouse. But it looks like it should be for a 1/16 size furniture dollhouse. I mean, it really does look like a dollhouse. And so I bought it. It didn't look like any birds had ever been in it. It may have been in a barn or a garage or someplace. Somebody made it. It's not really an antique, but it's well constructed and I can do some things with it. And I do have a lot of 1/16 plastic doll furniture from the 1930s and 1940s that I'm going to put in that house eventually. This is my favorite wood glue that I'm using. And this, of course, shows up in most of my videos. I like it because it does dry faster than some of the other ones. It's not the fastest drying, but you can also use it in other ways. It leaves a nice shiny coating, so you can actually use it as a sort of glaze if you're going to paint it, because it does have a yellow cast to it when it dries that intensifies as it dries. And I'm just using a very inexpensive craft brush from the Dollar Tree. I buy these whenever I am near a Dollar Tree, which is not very often. The nearest Dollar Tree where I am is almost 30 miles away, so I don't get there very often, unfortunately. But when I do go, I try to stock up on these sorts of things. I've noticed that all of the leaves, almost all of our leaves, just suddenly fell off the trees. And today I'm making this on November 2nd. And it was just a few days ago that the leaves were all there. It was rather surprising. It could be because we did have quite a bit of a drought this year. We didn't get as many of the beautiful fall colors that we usually get either. We have a lot of sugar maple trees in this area. People do a lot of maple sugar production here. In fact, I have a neighbor that has quite a maple sugar operation, and usually his trees are just magnificent. But this year it was not quite magnificent. It was far less magnificent than usual. And I do believe it was because we did have a drought for quite a bit of the summer. And now all the trees are bare, just about all of them. There's a few leaves hanging on, but it just went from leaves to no leaves. Seems like overnight. I just have one more to put in after this. I'm just lining them up with the pencil marks. You just have to make sure that they face in opposite directions from the others so that when you turn them around, you can have them all in the proper position for putting on the shelf for each one. And that'll be 4 shelves. And this will be for canned goods and some dishes and soaps and that sort of thing. I'm just going to put some weight on this. I don't have a weight system. That's the little refrigerator. And now I'm just going to paint the shelves. And just give them a quick coat. I try to paint everything a couple of times just to make sure it looks solid. And I'm using a couple of different acrylic paints here. Apple Barrel, a little bit of Golden, and another brand that I can't remember the name of, but I'm just getting that jadeite color jadeite kitchens were very popular in the 30s. Well, actually, the end of the 1920s, right up into 1950. And there was a blue color, too, that was pretty popular. But I'm going to do a jadeite kitchen. So the appliances will be this green. And it will have a linoleum look floor. And then wallpaper that picks out some of these colors as well. That little refrigerator that you see that I'm using as a weight with that round thing on top, those were gas refrigerators. And the first house that my husband and I bought together after we were married 47 years ago, more than 47 years ago, had a refrigerator very similar to this one, but it was white. I gave it to my brother-in-law and he still has it. I would love to get it back from him, but I don't dare ask him. He did use it for a while. It was still working. He put new electrical cord and some new wiring in it, and it worked just fine for quite a long time. I don't know now. I think he just has it in his basement. It's possible it still works. Okay, and there's my leftovers that I'm going to keep. Yay. I just have a little bag that I put all these little bits and pieces in. Okay, now I'm going to start gluing this together and make it look like a shelf. And I just have to figure out the best way to do this. Now I did make some changes to this shelf, and you'll see that after I finished it the first time. Okay. Just that decision-making process of what shall I do? How shall I do this? So I'm mixing up a little bit of putty right now, and this is just air dry putty. It's a clay, air dry clay, and I'm just fixing a few things on it. Little areas that are perhaps a little bit warped or whatever, so I can sand them down. I'm just using the rest of it to fill in some buttons here because I'm going to make some more lamps later and clocks and things. And I use these buttons as pedestals for a number of different things, so I always need my buttons. Okay, now, getting down to business. I'm going to paint these sides, and I try to mix up enough paint so that I don't have to guess about how to mix it if I run out in the right proportions so that the shade doesn't change color. Although I'm pretty good with mixing paint. I can usually get it right without having to do too much. But I'd rather not if I didn't have to. As I was going along here, I realized that these popsicle sticks were rather thin, and it troubled me. Because in the 1/12 size, it might work fine for 1/24, or half size, but for this size doll furniture, it didn't really seem to work. But I just kept going and thinking, well, I'll make it, and if I'm not satisfied with it, I'll either make another one, or I will fix this one to make it work. And that's all part of the learning process. In the foreground, you see the little refrigerator, and you see a sink. I can't use the sink because the sink is actually a 1/16 size. So for this particular doll house, I can't make use of that. This block of wood that you're seeing me paint is also for a 1/16, and I think it was a refrigerator, but I'm going to make it into a cabinet to put in the 1/12 size doll house. So anyway, I'm moving ahead. I didn't paint the top of that because it wasn't dry enough, so it will get painted eventually. Now I'm going to just start gluing this together. After I start the shelf. Now this is going to be a dish shelf, and again I'm basing it on something that my mother owned. She had a wooden shelf that had a kind of towel bar under it when I was growing up. And I really loved that thing. She kept some of her better dishes on it. And occasionally she hung things from the bottom where it was almost like it was a wooden dowel of some kind. But I'm going to just put this together and get my sandpaper and clean up the edges. This is balsa wood. I won't be using any of those popsicle stick things in this construction. This is all balsa wood. And again, I'm just sort of winging it as I go along. I'm trying to figure out how to make it so it looks like the shelf my mother had. And I'm just going to estimate the size of it so that 1/12 size dishes will fit on it. In the older kitchens, the ones from the 1920s and 30s and even into the 40s, there wasn't a lot of cabinetry, at least not for middle class people and poorer people. I don't know if you've ever seen that movie, A Christmas Story, where the little boy in the movie is trying to get a BB gun called a Red Ryder BB gun. And if you notice the kitchen is really a 1930s kitchen in that movie. And I'm just going to cut this. Sometimes balsa wood has like little tough pieces in it. It doesn't always cut completely cleanly, I've noticed. And I'm just clipping this up so this will go on the sides. And I'm just putting glue on. I have a little, this is that wood glue, but you can't see. I put a little bit in a dish, and so I could use my paintbrush with it. Okay, and I have to let that piece dry. Now, this is the next day. I actually put the sides on, and I put a piece on the top of the shelf that holds the dishes in. I think you can see it. And now I'm going to drill a hole on either side so that I can put the dowel in, just like the one my mother had. I didn't get this in the film, but there I go. I'm just putting that piece of dowel in. It's actually a skewer, some kind of bamboo, I think, or I don't know. Maybe it's not bamboo. Maybe it's I'm not sure what kind of material it's made out of. It's plant material, but I'm not sure what it is. And I'm just measuring the back of it to make sure I get it in there completely straight. And I'll have to cut off the end if any is sticking out. I'm just going to clean the hole up on this side and pound it through. Okay, and then that's the top of it you see facing the camera, and that's the hammer I use to pound it through. Now I'm not going to leave it like this. I'm going to cut the sides of it down in a kind of scoop shape so it's more decorative. But I'm going to put some epoxy sculpt in some of the crack areas because it'll close it up and it will strengthen it as well. And this is just that 2-part epoxy compound that you have to get it the same size. I always roll it in a ball because then you can measure the balls and tell how much is in them because it's a 1-to-1 ratio for making a nice solid epoxy bond. And any leftovers I just push into molds. I don't waste this stuff, it's too expensive. But I've been using epoxy sculpt for many years. I used to actually make doll heads out of it, and arms and hands and feet and legs. Someday I'll show one of my dolls that I made out of this. And she's actually about approximately the size of a Barbie doll. I have her put away though. She's not out on display right now. I had boxed her up and put her away. I kind of shift stuff around because I run out of room. I have so many Barbie dolls. I have Blythe dolls too. And now I'm getting a bit of a collection of the Dollhouse size dolls, 1/12 and 1/16 size. So I'm just going in and I'm just pushing this putty into the cracks and into any place that looks like it could be open, and just scraping away the excess. And it's very easy to sand epoxy sculpt. And if you begin to work with it after about 12 to 15 hours, it's easy to carve. Once it goes past 48 hours, though, it is very hard. It's rock hard. And the other nice thing about epoxy sculpt is there is about a half-hour to 45-minute time that you can work with it comfortably. I've even worked with it up to an hour, though. Now I'm just going to cut away this edge here into a kind of scoop, and I'll do it on both sides. And hopefully I won't break this balsa wood. So I'll just take my time and go in and make sure that it comes out in one piece. And I'm going to have to change this blade soon. There, and then I can sand it. And I'll just use that piece as a guide for the other side. I broke it, but not to worry. I'm going to use my epoxy sculpt to fix it and put it in and put a little bit of glue around it as well. And then when it's dry, I'll sand it and it'll be just fine. Just going to trim it up. And then this will be ready to sand and paint the next day. Okay, there it is painted. And I have just one coat. I haven't painted the back. Now, if you'll notice, this looks a little different because I doubled up all of the wood. So it's twice as thick as it was, and it's much sturdier, and I gave it a coat of paint. And this one has to be sanded and painted again a little bit. But first I'll put another coat of paint on. I always wanted to have a jadeite collection of dishes, vintage dishes, but never collected them really. I mean, I have a few pieces, but I have so many dishes though. I just can't start collecting jadeite. But I do love jadeite dishes. They're so beautiful. I love the color. And you can see the plate, the bar for the plates to rest against on the inside, and then the sort of towel rack underneath. And so that it does look quite a bit like the one that we had in our home when I was growing up. Except the color. We didn't have jadeite coloring in our home. The shelf we had was I don't know, it was some sort of hardwood. It was probably maple, and it was stained a dark color. It's quite pretty though. The dishes always looked very nice on it. And just give it another coat. This is a matte paint, and it can be sanded too in between coats for a better finish. Now I'm going to make some canned goods, and I'm just using this plastic tube. These are actually extra big plastic straws. And I got these canned good labels on Etsy, and I will try to find the link. And it was like a couple dollars or something, and I downloaded them and printed them because they're the right size, and it just made it easier. And I just printed them on the highest resolution my printer will print. And I'm just going to do enough of these so that I'm not going to put the lids on them. It also comes with the lid, a printable lid, top and bottom of the can. But I'm not going to do that yet. I'm going to just make these cans, and just so that they can be in the shelf so you can see what it'll look like in the end. And there it is, partially filled. And I have some little bottles. The one bottle in the middle I made. It's made out of beads. And the other two I found at an antique store. And there's a tea box. There's cream of wheat, cocoa. And I think that's a bar of soap on the bottom. Henko. I think that's soap, or maybe it's lard. I don't know. There's a cream of wheat box on the second shelf. In the big tea box. And here's the little dish display. I just put a little towel there just so you could see how it was used. It could be used. You could put hooks on it and hang utensil, any kind of utensil from it as well. I just had that little napkin I cut out and put in there. And I think it looks pretty cute. I do love the little dishes. And I stuck this together with museum wax so that they'll be stable. And then I will show you what they look like in a room. Here's the refrigerator. Now I bought this, it was white, at an antique store for $4. And I've seen these on Etsy for $100. It's very heavy. And inside there's drawers, and I have to finish touching up the inside. And there's a little ice box, frozen container thing up on the right. And I painted the hinges with a chrome marker. And you can see my little sink that I made down there. That's the next one. This was a refrigerator, I think, or maybe a closet. I don't know. It's very old. It's from the late 30s, maybe early 40s. But I want to put it in my little kitchen as a sort of another storage place for kitchen items. And then I painted the handle with the chrome. And that's the jadeite paint, too. And then I made a little framed picture to go in it. And I made a brown frame for that. And that's actually a metal frame. And that's a little piece of artwork by Lilias Trotter. She was working in the late 19th century, early 20th century. Well, there is my little room. That's the wallpaper I'm going to use in the dollhouse and the flooring. And this is one side of the wall. It will look similar to this. That little basket at the bottom, I made that the other day. It's actually made out of yarn, cotton yarn, and then I painted it. That's where the loaf of bread is sticking out of. And that I found at an antique store as well. Well, thank you for watching. And if you like this video, please subscribe and leave a comment. Bye-bye.